putting a horse in a trailer. And a kid comes up from behind, who's one of her students, breaks a branch off the tree and whacks it in the butt, and it smacks right down to this. Kid is maybe 15. $1 million lawsuit. He said that she told him that to get a horse to move, you hit it in front of a jury. He said that this was the only facility he could afford to go to. So it became a real kissing match, if you will. $750,000 later, settled with them. But here we have a trainer and a student. Their word against, one person's word against the other, which is a problem. And him saying that she always told us to do that. She always told us to hit horses, which we all know is probably not true. But it's, you know, I'm not saying I have solutions for this, but it makes you, I'm telling you stories to make you think about things that come up.
Diane?
Yes,
For incidents like that, how do you feel about having incident reports?
I love it. At the end, I'm going to talk about claims, and just real briefly, what you should consider when you have a claim. You know, don't write out and get an attorney. Do write it all down. We all have smartphones now. Get on your recorder. Say what you know, and so that you remember it. Because later on, when this goes to deposition, which won't be for 4 years, you won't remember the details. And incident reports, if you have barn rules, you probably should have an incident report. And we're actually coming up with a generic claim form that just, you know, makes you think of all of the things that took place during the accident. So, the only thing, you gotta watch your insurance policy though. If you have a professional liability policy and you have an incident and you don't turn it in right away, you could have a problem if the statute of limitations run out. So just kind of watch that.
But I'm saying incident reports for your own personal records, that when something goes wrong, write it down, have a witness.
And what did you do?
Yeah.
Don't take an incident report you didn't put down, and then I followed up with them for 3 days after. Or, you know, make sure that you do some follow-up. You know, it's a whole storyline. It's not just this happened.
Really?
Okay.
Was it the horse that got injured or the person?
What?
Just this one. You were saying the whole face. I didn't catch it was the horse.
It's the student got kicked in the face.
Oh.
Because remember, we're not insuring this, we're not insuring the instructor for their bodily injury. That goes into your own health insurance. It's your students that we're trying to defense costs for you. We okay? So the student got kicked right in the face. And he came up behind the horse, and during the litigation it came out that he said, well, she always tells us to hit the horses. Which, you know, the woman's been in business for 35 years, nobody else ever said that. But, and he had some very severe injuries, and will go on top, because he's only 14. So.
Do most of these go to jury, or are they settled out before they get there?
We try and settle anything before it goes to a jury, and it really depends on the state. In California, really bad. Yeah, it all depends on the state situation. You know, if it's a death claim and it's a child, you don't want to be in front of any jury. So, and again, instructors with dogs. I kind of gave you my dog scenario while I was talking about that. But make a dog rule, really, and follow it. Okay. Any more questions before I go on to club insurance about instructors insurance in general? And I'm really kind of broad brushing this, but instructors need to have insurance.
Diana?
Yes.
So if I have an intern with me,
Yes.
and it's $200 for each add-on or something like that. It's a minimal nominal fee, right?
Yes.
So, and I can have how many underneath me?
Any you want?
Okay. And so for these 3 months, you know, it's Robin,
Yeah.
and then she's not with me any longer. Do I let you know that, and then she's taken
And
off?
we can substitute them. And I'm trying to be broad, meaning talk about insurance in general, not specifically about microsure, because I think it's important that you understand insurance. But at charge you again. Oh, we just switch names.
So if somebody's an assistant, they don't have to be technically an employee.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, it depends on your state. I mean, if you're employing people, and that's what we're gonna talk about as well, if you cross the line with volunteers, working students, and employees, we need to be really, really careful. You need workman's comp insurance if they're employees. And if you're gonna hire them as independent contractors, contact an attorney and get a really good contract. I don't know what to say. We have several claims right now, like 5, where it's really muddy. They're working students, are they volunteers? What are they? And I think it's gonna be a huge deal that I think you're gonna see insurance companies change how they rate because volunteers are being included for no premium and they're just getting hammered with claims.
For the instructor's insurance to apply, you have to be actually in the act of instructing, or, because a lot of times, like, when we have our programs, you know, the students will be playing the match.
Right?
We won't be physically out there with them, we'll be on the sidelines.
No,
So that's,
that's fine. The only time you really cross it when your instructor's insurance stops is if the lesson ends and you all go to the bar, start drinking, and then come back for dinner. The minute the lesson ended is when they're going to say, well, it's not learning anymore. But if you're there, I mean, we insure, again, a lot of, say, dressage people who actually trailer the student and the horse to a show, and they help them during the show. Absolutely. As long as that person is, we could show that that's, you know, this is a regular student of ours, and they were out there playing. Does that help? Anybody else? Okay, trainer's insurance, or does everybody know the importance of getting trainer's insurance? I don't know that I said enough, that there's some professional liability exposures, as well as bodily injury and property damage. Let's say that I sell you a horse, or tell you that a horse is worth $50,000. You purchase it from me, and I have an appraisal and it's worth $5. It's going to come back on the instructor, guaranteed. So think about that. And all the things that you do during your day, what about if you sell tack? What about if you sell tack and something happens and the girth breaks and I break my neck and I fall off that horse? If I sell used tack, how does that work?
What about loaning helmets? I mean, you don't want to let anyone on board without a helmet.
You just got to make sure it fits. I mean, okay. You've done the best you can do, and you've gone through the steps of making it fit. But I've been through this same scenario with boots, and I have 2 claims right now with boots that were not, they stated they were not properly fitted for the child, and they fell and were drugged. So I tell everybody, maybe for the first 1, 2, or 3 lesson, you loan them something, and after that, they need to bring their own equipment. I don't care what it is. But you try to help them, you allow them to try a few things, but after that, they need to bring their own. Because eventually, if your equipment breaks, guess who's on the line? But to get them started, you don't want to help them get started. Okay? Okay, club insurance. So, who's our insured? Again, who are we trying to provide defense costs for? The club itself. So, Diane's Polo Club, we want Diane's Polo Club to be insured against negligence. The other people are the board of directors. What about your club members? You want your club members to be a named insured, that if they get sued, you know, let's say you have a charity event, and one of your club members does something really stupid, and they get sued individually, and they sue the club, you want your club members to be an insured, that they get defense costs. What about participants? Wonder if you have people participating in that match, but they're not club members. Do you want them? Some clubs say no. Some clubs say, if they're going to be a member, sure. Whatever happens to them. Or, if they're a club member, then obviously they're insured. But if they're just a participant, you want them to be a club member before they get your insurance. Just a thought. Okay. exposure to you. Your volunteers and your club members, you know, everybody says, you know, the people closest to you are the ones maybe you should be most afraid of. Be really careful. People that volunteer need to sign waivers. They need to sign waivers and releases. And even think about making a release and waiver for your club members. But everybody's in this together. You know, if we're participating in this. Now, our policy, you can sue each other. So if we're all club members, everybody at this table is a club member, you and I run into each other, we can sue each other. As long as there's some negligence there. Just can't be, I'm mad at you and I'm gonna sue you. There's got to be some negligence. So what are your exposures? Your volunteers are huge. Bake sales, yep.
Just for clarification, when you become a member of the United States Polo Association,
Yes.
it comes with $100,000 liability coverage, right?
$1 million.
$1 million. Okay, so if someone is a USPA member and they come play at your club,
Yes.
you don't have to worry about them being insured.
Correct.
Because they already have their USPA membership.
Correct.
Okay.
And you need to express to the association that that's pretty important.
Right. Okay, and then, so my other question would be, so if you have someone that is out at your club just trying it out, just have them sign up for the USPA because it automatically.
Correct.
Yes.
Huge.
Huge, automatically gives it to them.
It automatically gives it to them. And that's a good way to get people to, you know, to start in the club because you'd already know they have insurance. Or make them a member for a month. Yes, sir.
What about the new associate member thing you do? You get a new player, you sign them up as associate member, USDA, you know, picks up the bill, starts
Yes.
setting up, you know, their
Same.
magazine, it's the same.
It's students, players, associates. What's the other category?
There's collegiate, junior, associate,
I'm sorry?
collegiate members, junior members, associate members, professional players.
And we call them student play, I think we call them students. In that, you get an evidence of insurance that explains the coverages when you join USPA. I think we call them students. And we'll talk about that. Remind me that when we're at the end, because the student coverages is kind of different than you aware of that.
Getting back to the two different horses in a paddock, there are two different owners. If one
Yes.
horse kicks the other, it's
Yes.
gonna be owner suing owner. It's
Yes.
gonna be, the damaged horse is gonna sue the club and the owner.
It's gonna be both, all of the above.
We're gonna deep pockets.
Yeah, well, it's probably gonna be both, yeah. They don't care about deep pockets. Attorneys do care about it.
Just along that line, I have people who come in and they'll say, oh, my horse is worth $20,000, and I'll say, well, you need to get insurance.
Mortality insurance.
Yeah, because I feel that a lot of times they want to place that high value, but they're not willing to spend the money to insure it. And I find that that protects me a lot as a boarding facility. I can say, well, I'm not gonna, you know, protect your horse for $50,000 if you're not gonna protect your horse.
Agreed. And and you know, you need a little stall card on the front of every stall. Who do I contact in case of an emergency for this horse? And any horse you know that is a high dollar, you need to have a discussion with the owner. You know, does this have mortality insurance? Because also, mortality insurance, there's some real specific language in there, what you have to do before you can get surgery or call it anything. You have to call the insurance company and get it okay. You need to euthanize it. So, you know, put a dollar amount on, in your mind maybe. Any horse over 10,000, I really want a mortality policy.
Yeah, that's pretty much my standard, because like, I feel like anyone could say, oh, that horse is worth $20,000, and I'll be like,
Well, this is an awful thing to say, but in my business, they're worth a lot more dead than they are alive. After they die, they come up with amazing things as to what the value of that horse is.
so that's why when they first bring it onto your property, you say, what's the value of this horse right on the board contract? And if they say it's over 10, I say, I can't cover your horse for more than 10.
You know, you need to say, I do not cover your horse.
Oh, I do
I don't
not.
care any value.
I do not cover more than 10, you need to get your